Hey guys, Jeremy Parvin, welcome back to my channel. Today I've got a very exciting video to show you about an eviction I had to do on some tenants who just moved in and then they wouldn't pay rent. They started doing a lot of suspicious activity and moving in all kinds of people. As you know, I've created a passive income stream of over $50,000 a month. My real estate portfolio is worth $6.5 million currently. I've done it all while doing a full-time job, and I'm going to show you how you can do it too. Stay tuned to the end of this video to see actual footage of this eviction. Oh, hey guys, Lily wanted to say hello and ask for a favor. We would sincerely appreciate you hitting the subscribe button as we work towards getting our first 1,000 subscribers. And Lily is going to be giving a pair of AirPad Pros away to one of our first 1,000 subscribers. So hit the like button, hit the bell notification, share, and all those count as an extra entry. So thank you very much. Say hello, Lily. Okay, so let's get into it. So after buying 35 rental properties, I finally had to do an entire eviction. First time here. When these tenants applied, I didn't have a good gut feeling about them. They just seemed kind of shady. They had vertical driver's licenses. Actually, they were ID only. And so I asked them about them, and they had great excuses. It was a mother and a daughter who was about 18, 19. My gut was telling me that they might be a little too rough and that they might do drugs. So I caught myself wondering if I was just being judgmental and decided to just do a little further investigation on them. So I did a full credit check and a full background check on both of them. Of course, they had bad credit. People with good credit are called homeowners. There wasn't anything super negative on either of those reports. So they really wanted the house, so I went ahead and rented it to them. When they showed up to sign the lease, they paid the smallest deposit, which was $1,000, and then they were short on the rent. They paid a little less than half the month's rent. They did make some really great excuses as to why they didn't have all the money at the lease signing and promised me that they were going to stop by the bank to cash a check or something later that day or possibly the next day. That day came and went, and so did the next day, and of course I contacted them between and they had some fantastic excuses. So we signed the lease on October the 7th. Immediately after moving in, I started getting phone calls from 3 neighbors complaining about people coming and going at all times of the night. Adults crawling in and out through windows. Suspicious activity on the front porch, trading money in the road, all kinds of people. And remember, there are only 2 people on this lease. My neighbors started taking pictures and filming video of all these strange things. People going out on the back porch and walking, pacing the back porch at all hours of the night. Then it wasn't until October 26th they paid another $500. They were still about $500 behind. I was getting pretty upset. On October the 2nd they paid another $250. They were still about $230 behind on paying their first full month's rent. And then all of a sudden on November the 3rd I finally get the electric bill, which they were supposed to have put into their name and obviously didn't. And I was kind of upset, maybe $150 or something like that. So I call them and I say, hey, this is just not working. You still haven't paid me all your rent. You didn't put the utilities in your name. Let's just undo this thing, and how soon can you guys be out? They refused. They blocked my number. So on November the 6th, I finally contacted my attorney, and I said, hey, will you please hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm so more people can see this video? And he said, there is an eviction ban going on. There are some ways to get around that. For example, if the people lied on their application, if there are more people living there than you have on the lease, or if they lied about other things. For example, on my lease, I have a question that says, have you ever been evicted before? They both circled no. The other thing he explained was that the eviction ban doesn't forgive their rent. It simply allows them to stay until they can pay their rent later. They've got to sign this form that they swear that they're going to become homeless if they have to leave this property. Lying on this can result in criminal penalties and imprisonment. They were passing this out when I later went to the courthouse with this case. More to come on that. So my attorney says, what are their names? I tell him to him, and he said, that rings a bell. He looks it up on his computer and says, these tenants have been evicted in this county 3 times, and I personally evicted them myself. And so I told him, hey man, I did a background check and a credit check, and nothing like that showed up. And he said, yeah, it doesn't show up on a lot of those things. So he gave me a free website to our local county's courthouse that simply shows judgments and evictions and court cases and things like that, where you simply search for the name of the tenant. So lesson number 2. Figure out your local county's website to look for court cases and evictions. And so I paid him $150 to make a 3-day vacate the premises posting, which I put on the front door. So after the 3-day notice, of course, the tenants didn't leave. And so I paid my attorney $350 to actually file an eviction case, and that was on November the 16th. December the 16th, 1 month later, we had our court case. I sat in the courtroom for about an hour before they got to my case. And every other landlord eviction case that I saw was awarded to the landlord for these deadbeat tenants trying to take advantage of the system. You should have heard the number of excuses these people had. And the judge just didn't care or believe. It didn't matter. And so it's nice to see that there really is a system for deadbeats trying to take advantage of other people. And when I was in there in the courtroom, I never saw any heartfelt case about a family with children that truly had some hard times and were being kicked to the curb. Every case that I saw was like mine, where you had some deadbeat junkies who were just trying to take advantage of every possible thing they could, who would lie, cheat, and steal. And the court system saw right through it, and it was nice to see that justice was served on that day. I kept looking for my tenants, and my attorney asked me if I saw them. It was kind of hard to see because people had on masks and people were spaced out. So it got to my case. The tenants did not show. However, they did leave a message at the court. They complained about some new excuse about the mom having to go have an emergency heart surgery, which they had already used on me about 4 times, and I was compassionate the first few times, right? The judge didn't bite at all. He hears that every day, and he immediately granted me what they call a default judgment since the other party didn't show up. So I got awarded my entire $5,000 balance that they had owed me up to that time, as well as a possession judgment giving the tenants 10 days to get out of the property. So after 10 days, do you think the tenants are still in there or not? Of course they are. I paid my attorney another $65 to contact the sheriff's office to schedule a set out, which I'd never had to do before. So after a few days, the sheriff called me to schedule the set out at 9:30 in the morning. So January 20th, the set out date came. 9:30 a.m., the sheriff shows up, me, 3 other people that he asked me to bring in case we have to set their stuff out. We all show up, so there are 5 of us outside. The sheriff knocks on the door, pounds, and kind of says, hey, sheriff, open up. He does this for a little while, and then we try our key, and of course it doesn't work anymore. It turns out what they did was put duct tape on the inside of the lock so they wouldn't move. They did this everywhere. They put furniture barricading it over the doors, and that's why they were going in and out the windows, is what we found out. Crazy. So when I spoke to the sheriff the week prior, he told me to have a locksmith lined up in case we have trouble getting in, which I did. So I called the locksmith. He's on his way, and he shows up and he starts trying to get in the different doors. As he's doing that, I'm actually looking in the blinds between the little cracks, and I actually see some movement, and I can tell it's a person. So I tell the sheriff, hey, there's definitely people inside of the house still. And so he calls off the locksmith because he says, I can't detain all these people in my car. I don't have the proper car to detain people. It doesn't have that divider in there. And so he calls 2 city cops for backup, so we're all waiting around. So 2 city police cars show up, and these guys were a little more aggressive in their demands, yelling for the tenants to open the door and banging on the doors. They knew they were in there, and they said, you're coming out one way or the other, you better open up now. If we have to come in, you're all going to jail. And so they got them to come to the window and the door and open up. Now this time it's probably about 10 a.m. and the first thing they say when they open the door is, we just woke up and we're almost finished packing. Obviously they haven't started packing. So the sheriff tells us to go ahead and start moving everything to the curb. Then he pulls me aside and asks me if I'd like to let them help us since everyone's getting along so well. And so I said sure. So we're all packing and everything. Well, I helped pack and move one room and another room, and then eventually I get to this second bedroom, and the door shut, so I knock on it. I go in there and I see another person who I don't recognize who isn't on the lease. At this point, she's the 5th person in the house, and I've only seen one person that's on the lease so far. After about another hour, I go in the back of the house, and there's a bathroom at the very back, and that door is closed. I knock on it, and there's a man in there who none of us had even seen yet. And this makes 6 people in that house. It's only about 1,000 square feet. Again, there were only 2 tenants on the lease, and only one of them was there. I later find out that there are 3 more people living in the house that aren't there right now. And later, a day or so after, when my cleaning folks were there cleaning, a sheriff showed up looking for this other man who I have no idea who they are, and made my cleaning crew show their IDs proving it wasn't them. Crazy. So 3 hours later, after moving all this stuff to the curb, the sheriff goes in to try to get the strange guy out of the bathroom in the back who had not yet come out. He finally gets him out of there. But I'm at the front of the house by myself with the tenant and her boyfriend. Again, the boyfriend's not even on the lease. They start complaining about the house, and then she starts complaining about how it was so rude of me to put the property up for rent on the internet and put a sign in the yard when they were still living there, as if I had done something wrong. The sheriff had to ask them to get off the property. They can stand by the curb with their stuff, but if they come back on the property, that they will be arrested. They stood out there all day. 2 or 3 of them came and went. So the locksmith had changed all the locks on the house. It cost me $200, and they were no longer able to get in the house with their keys. which they would not surrender. So lesson number 3 is don't attend your own evictions. If you have to do this, again, this is the first time I've had to do this, hire some other people to be there and don't show up. It's very emotional. So at 8 p.m. that night, one of my neighbors texted me and said, hey, they finally got a U-Haul to show up. They've been sitting out here all day with their stuff. And so they packed up all their stuff. I was very surprised. We didn't think they were going to come get any of this junk. And so the next morning, my maintenance guy shows up, and they had gotten, 99% of this, but they left a huge mess in the front yard. It looks like they had done this on purpose. They took all kinds of trash and food and smeared it all over the front porch, and then they threw some things on top of the roof of this house. We just took pictures. I am going to file another case against these people to recoup the additional costs that it cost me to clean up after these, and I plan to show the judge any of these pictures afterwards, and I'm sure that will leave a nice impression on the tenant's part when he sees what they did after leaving. Surprisingly, they didn't tear the house up that much, I think because they thought they could live there for much longer. If they had kind of left on their own, maybe they would have destroyed some stuff. Anyway, a lot of cleaning and a lot of painting. And they did, however, rip the thermostat out of the wall, and the wires were just doing this, and so they were using space heaters. So I think when you get tweaked out on drugs, you do things like that. I don't know. So I'm so glad to get my house back. And so lesson number 4 is to act quickly. I do plan to file another case to be reimbursed for the additional cost. These money judgments are good for 10 years. And just this month, my collection attorney contacted me about someone with an old judgment wanting to settle so they could buy or sell a house. So let me know what you think about this video in the comments below. Let me know about your evictions and any tips or tricks that you've had. Let me know any questions you have in general, as well as other topics you'd like me to talk about on next videos. Oh, and don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel to help us get our first 1,000 subscribers, to which Lily is giving away a pair of Apple iPod Pros to one of our first 1,000 subscribers. Also in the show notes, I've got a link to the federal CDC eviction ban as well as a ban by state. So be sure to check that out if you're interested. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.
Oh, it's all one.
Okay.
And then you guys can start. So let's start carrying. I just start with furniture type stuff first.
I got you.
Packing up little stuff. We'll let them do that. You did call them.
I did.
They say they're coming to get it.
He said.